We got a really cool unit here today from a company called Boulder. If you might want to guess, Boulder's out of Colorado. They've been making high-end electronics now for, I think, over 40 years. So they've been around a really long time. This piece is the 812. It's part of their 800 series, which consists of this, which is a preamp, DAC, and headphone amp all in one. They also have an integrated amplifier that's in this series and a power amplifier for speakers. So because this has a headphone amp, of course, it intrigued us, and we asked the company if we can get a unit to play with, a demo unit, and they were happy to send it along. So thank you, Boulder, for sending this to us. This thing is not inexpensive. It just comes in under 10,000 US dollars, but it has some really cool features for an all-in-one. You notice the front panel is pretty basic. It doesn't even have a display. It just has some LED lights that tell you what input's being selected, and it switches the volume when you play with the volume knob. It doesn't come with a remote, but I think you can get one. It does, though, have a Boulder app for your phone, and the app can control volume and input settings and some other settings, a lot of settings internally. In fact, the app has more controls over this thing than the front panel, which nowadays pretty much is the norm. In terms of size, it's sort of in between. It's about 0.3 meters square, about 12 inches, about a foot either way. So it's kind of neat because it'll fit on a shelf on a typical rack with excess room. And of course, if you have a desktop, it's not a full rack width. Pretty low profile. It's only about 3-4 inches high. Some of its feature sets are Wi-Fi, built-in Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. It'll do Apple AirPlay. It also is a Roon endpoint. So if you're running Roon, you're good to go with this. So I guess that's part of the reason why it only has, for a preamp, it only has a few inputs. It's got 2 sets of balanced inputs. It has no single-ended inputs whatsoever. And it also only has 1 set of balanced outs to go to an amplifier, which, of course, if you wanted to, you could take balance and convert to RCA, but it only has 1 set of outputs. So as a preamp goes, it's fairly minimal in terms of functionality and allowing a lot of inputs. But because it is a wireless unit or network unit, most people probably aren't going to run more than about 2 inputs into it anyway, so you'd be good to go. Because it's a built-in DAC, it also has a slew of digital inputs. It takes a network connection, has 2 opticals, USB, and coaxial. So how does this thing sound? Well, in a nutshell, wonderful. It's got beautiful clarity. It's not forward. It's not a bright sounding piece. Beautiful clarity. In terms of its headphone versus output versus preamp, I would say it's pretty much the same sound character on both. If you're using this as a preamp, it's typical Boulder quality. Boulder goes back a lot of years in the 2-channel world, and so do I. So in terms of Boulder sound, Boulder's always noted for having wonderful clarity, fullness, good bottom end. I mean, just beautiful high-end 2-channel sound. This piece, being under $10,000, is actually the least expensive piece they've ever made. Their typical price points used to be, and still are, I think, they make products in the $30,000 per unit range. So this is a serious departure from their norm in terms of pricing. But the beauty of it is you're getting 40 years of engineering experience in this piece, and it shows. The headphone output plays any of our Abyss headphones, which is surprising for a one-piece unit. It's very rare to see this level of power capability in a one-piece unit. Combine that with the fact that it'll accept nearly any digital input, as well as streaming services, network inputs, and Bluetooth, and Apple Play, and all that good stuff. It's quite a bundle in one unit. What really shocked us is its ability to play on our AB1266. That headphone is power hungry, and it's not quite to the level of Susvara power hungry, but it's pretty close. And this thing has plenty of headroom. It's got good clarity. It has good bass. I would say the sound of this, I mean, it's really kind of exciting to listen to. It really lets you dig into the recording and hear your music. I was playing some Led Zeppelin track, and I'm like, wow, that's cool. I never heard the beginning like that before. And that's unusual because I've been listening to Led Zeppelin my whole life. And it's got somewhat of a unique character to it in its clarity. in that it has a fullness, but it's more almost like a pro sound, like a professional sound, but I wouldn't want to go there with that. But it's very good. It certainly could work well in a pro setting in terms of for playback. But to be able to power REB 1266 in a one-piece unit is very rare. In fact, I don't think there's anything else that'll do that on the market. If you're running a balanced two-channel system, it's a top-shelf preamp, absolutely. We put this in line with other headphone gear just to get an idea of what its character was when you slip it into an existing system, and it's fairly neutral. What seems to happen is the more you listen to this 812, the more it grows on you. You start to understand it better. It takes more than 10 minutes. It takes a few hours, even for someone who's experienced. And you start to grasp what it's really doing when you start skipping through tracks and some of your favorites. And you go, well, that's cool, and that's cool. And in a nutshell, the best way I could describe this is for me, listening to systems for decades, I think it's the first amplifier, the first headphone amplifier, for the first entire headphone system that I've heard where I don't feel I need another amp. In fact, what it makes me want to do is have multiple DACs. Use its built-in DAC for the greatest clarity, the greatest information from the music, just beautiful sound. And then if I want to alter that in some way, I would typically go to a tube amp or some other different kind of amplifier for the headphones. In this case, it's the opposite. I prefer to go like to an R2R DAC for rock and roll, or change up the DAC, to try to soften the top end a little bit. And it's not that this is bright or anything like that, but it's just the fact that it makes me want to use it entirely by itself on all of our headphones. And our headphones have different sonic characters. So it's great that this thing could be such a chameleon and not really lend itself to being good with any one particular headphone. So as a headphone amp alone goes, the Boulder 812 is phenomenal. Same as a preamp, and the fact that it has all the digital inputs going for it and a built-in DAC, it's a deal. It's a good deal. So it's highly recommended. And I'm going to try to keep this bad boy for a little longer around here and play with it more. I'm beginning to like it. Thank you, everybody, for watching.